Cobra Kai is an American martial arts comedy drama television series and a sequel to the original The Karate Kid films by Robert Mark Kamen. The series was created by Josh Heald, John Hurwitz, and Hayden Schlossberg, and is distributed by Sony Pictures Television. The series was released on YouTube Red/YouTube Premium for the first 2 seasons, before moving to Netflix starting with the third. The series stars Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, who reprise their roles as Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence from the 1984 film The Karate Kid and its sequels, The Karate Kid Part 2 and The Karate Kid Part 3. The first season launched on YouTube Red on May 2, 2018, with the second season following on April 24, 2019. After production of Season 3 was completed, YouTube decided to stop producing scripted original programming, leaving the show without a home. Netflix acquired the series in June 2020, and has helmed production and release of the series since. The third season was released on January 1, 2021. Netflix renewed the series for a fourth season, which was released on December 31, 2021 and a fifth, which was released on September 9, 2022. Cobra Kai begins in the fall of 2017, and re-examines the Miyagi-verse narrative from Johnny's point of view, beginning with his decision to reopen the Cobra Kai Karate Dojo, and the rekindling of his old rivalry with Daniel. Cobra Kai also stars Courtney Hengeler, Colo Mariduena, Tanner Buchanan, Mary Mauser, Jacob Bertrand, Johnny DiCenzo, Peyton List, Vanessa Rubio, and Dallas Dupree Young, with Martin Kove and Thomas Ian Griffith also reprising their roles from the films. The series attained high viewership on both YouTube and Netflix, and has received critical acclaim for its writing, performances, action sequences, humor, character development, and homage to the previous films. It has received numerous awards and nominations, with the third season being nominated for Outstanding Comedy Series at the 73rd Primetime Emmy Awards. Plot: in 1984, 17-year-old Daniel LaRusso and his mother Lucille moved from Newark, New Jersey, to Reseda, Los Angeles, California. Their apartment's handyman is an eccentric, but kind, and humble Okinawan immigrant named Mr. Miyagi. At a beach party, Daniel befriends Allie Mills, a high school cheerleader, drawing the attention of her arrogant ex-boyfriend Johnny Lawrence, a black belt and the top student from the Cobra Kai Dojo, which teaches an aggressive form of karate. Johnny and his Cobra Kai gang continually bully Daniel. On Halloween, after Daniel sprays water on Johnny with a hose as payback, he and his gang pursue Daniel down the street and brutally beat him, until Mr. Miyagi intervenes and easily defeats them. Amazed, Daniel asks Mr. Miyagi to teach him karate. He declines but agrees to accompany Daniel to Cobra Kai to resolve the conflict. They meet the sensei, John Kreese, an ex-Special Forces Vietnam veteran who callously dismisses the peace offering. Miyagi then proposes that Daniel enter the Under-18 All-Valley Karate Championships to compete against Kreese's students on equal terms, and requests that the bullying cease while he trains. Kreese agrees to the terms but warns that if Daniel does not show up for the tournament, the harassment will continue for both of them. Daniel's training starts with days of menial chores that seemingly only serve to make him Miyagi's slave. When he becomes frustrated, Miyagi demonstrates that repetition of these chores have helped him to learn defensive blocks through muscle memory. Their bond develops, and Miyagi opens up to Daniel about his life, including the dual loss of his wife and son in childbirth at the Manzanar internment camp while he was serving with the 442nd Infantry Regiment during World War II in Europe, where he received the Medal of Honor. Through Mr. Miyagi's teaching, Daniel learns not only karate but also important life lessons such as the importance of personal balance, reflected in the principle that martial arts training is as much about training the spirit as the body. Daniel applies the life lessons Miyagi has taught him to strengthen his relationship with Allie. On Daniel's 18th birthday, Miyagi gives him a karate gi for the tournament and one of his own cars. At the tournament, Daniel surprises the audience and competitors by reaching the semi-finals. Johnny advances to the finals, scoring 3 unanswered points against Daryl Vidal. Kreese instructs his second-best student, Bobby Brown, one of his more compassionate students and the least vicious of Daniel's tormentors, to disable Daniel with an illegal attack to the knee. Bobby reluctantly does so, severely injuring Daniel and getting himself disqualified in the process. Daniel is taken to the locker room, where the physician determines that he cannot continue. However, he believes that if he quits, his tormentors will have gotten the best of him, so he convinces Miyagi to use a pain suppression technique to help him continue. As Johnny is about to be declared the winner by default, Daniel returns to fight. The match is a seesaw battle, with neither able to break through the other's defense. The match is halted when Daniel uses a scissor leg technique to trip Johnny, delivering a blow to the back of his head and giving Johnny a nosebleed. Kreese directs Johnny to sweep Daniel's injured leg, an unethical move. Johnny looks horrified at the order, but reluctantly agrees. As the match resumes and the score is tied 2-2, Johnny seizes Daniel's leg and deals a vicious elbow, doing further damage. Daniel, standing with difficulty, assumes the crane stance, a technique he observed Mr. Miyagi performing on a beach. Johnny lunges toward Daniel, who jumps and executes a front kick to Johnny's face, scoring the winning point and becoming the new champion. Johnny, having gained newfound respect for his nemesis, presents the trophy to Daniel himself, as Daniel is carried off by an enthusiastic crowd while Miyagi looks on proudly. Cast: Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso, Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, William Zabka as Johnny Lawrence, Elizabeth Shue as Allie Mills, Martin Kove as John Kreese, Randy Heller as Lucille LaRusso, Chad McQueen as Dutch, Ron Thomas as Bobby Brown, Tony Odell as Jimmy, Rob Garrison as Tommy. Production. Development. The Karate Kid is a semi-autobiographical story based on the life of its screenwriter, Robert Mark Kamen. At age 17, after the 1964 New York World's Fair, Kamen was beaten up by a gang of bullies. He thus began to study martial arts in order to defend himself. Kamen was unhappy with his first teacher who taught martial arts as a tool for violence and revenge. So he moved on to study Okinawan Gjry karate under a Japanese teacher who did not speak English but had been a student of Jun Miyagi. As a Hollywood screenwriter, Kamen was mentored by Frank Price, who told him that producer Jerry Weintraub had optioned a news article about the young child of a single mother who had earned a black belt to defend himself against the neighborhood bullies. Kamen then combined his own life story with the news article and used both to create the screenplay for The Karate Kid. Additionally, given John Avildsen's involvement with both films, Sylvester Stallone often joked with Kamen that the writer had ripped off the Rocky films with The Karate Kid. DC Comics had a character called Karate Kid. The filmmakers received special permission from DC Comics in 1984 to use the title for the film and its sequels. Casting. A number of actors were considered for the part of Daniel, including Sean Penn, Robert Downey Jr., Charlie Sheen, John Cryer, Emilio Estevez, Nicolas Cage, Anthony Edwards, C. Thomas Howell, Tom Cruise, Eric Stoltz, and D.B. Sweeney. Ralph Macchio was ultimately cast on the strength of his performance as Johnny Cade in The Outsiders. Macchio has stated that his performance as Johnny influenced the development of Daniel LaRusso in The Karate Kid. Macchio later commented that the character was originally named Danny Weber, but was later changed to LaRusso. The studio originally wanted the role of Mr. Miyagi to be played by Toshiro Mifune, who had appeared in the Akira Kurosawa films Rashomon, Seven Samurai, and The Hidden Fortress, but the actor did not speak English. Pat Morita later auditioned for the role but was rejected for the part due to his close association with stand-up comedy and with his character Arnold on the sitcom Happy Days. After a few failed attempts, Morita grew a beard and patterned his accent after his uncle, which led to him being cast in the role. Crispin Glover was considered for the role of Johnny, but the studio later opted for William Zabka. After his audition, Zabka saw Macchio, who noted that Zabka scared him during his audition to the studio. When he was cast, Zabka was a wrestler with no previous training in karate. Zabka later recalled his audition, saying he was told to act out a scene from the script, while wearing a headband. He walked up to and grabbed John Avildsen, and said, "Watch your mouth, asshole." He then exited the room and came back in, took his headband off and said that it was Johnny, not Billy. Avildsen then asked him about his age, and his height when compared to Karate Kid. Zabka responded, "Bruce Lee was smaller than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he beat him in reference to Game of Death," to which Avildsen confirmed it. Avildsen was then convinced to cast Zabka for the role. Helen Hunt and Demi Moore were also considered for the role of Allie, but Elizabeth Shue was cast based partly on a Burger King commercial that became widely popular in the early 1980s. The film marks the debut roles of both Zabka and Shue. Late in production, Valerie Harper was considered for the role of Lucille, but the studio later instated Randy Heller for the role. Filming began on October 31, 1983, and wrapped on December 16. The film's fight choreographer for the combat scenes was Pat E. Johnson, a Tang Soo Do karate black belt who had previously been featured in Bruce Lee's American Hong Kong martial arts film Enter the Dragon and worked with Chuck Norris at American Tang Soo Do martial arts schools. Johnson also makes an appearance as the referee in The Karate Kid. Pat Morita's stunt double for Mr. Miyagi, Fumio Demura, is also a karate black belt who had previously worked with Bruce Lee, who learned some nunchaku techniques from Demura. Soundtrack. The musical score for The Karate Kid was composed by Bill Conti, a frequent collaborator of director John G. Avildsen since their initial pairing on Rocky. The instrumental score was orchestrated by Jack Eskew and featured pan flute solos by George Zamfir. On March 12, 2007, Varese Sarabande released all 4 Karate Kid scores in a 4-CD box set limited to 2,500 copies worldwide. A soundtrack album was released in 1984 by Casablanca Records containing many of the contemporary songs featured in the film. Of particular note is Joe Esposito's You're the Best, featured during the tournament montage near the end of the first film. Originally written for Rocky III, You're the Best was rejected by Sylvester Stallone in favor of Survivor's hit song Eye of the Tiger. Coincidentally, Survivor also performed the main theme for The Karate Kid. Bananarama's 1984 hit song Cruel Summer also made its U.S. debut in The Karate Kid but was excluded from the film's soundtrack album. Other songs featured in the film but left off the album include Please Answer Me performed by Broken Edge and The Ride performed by The Matches. Track listing for 1984 soundtrack. The Moment of Truth, On the Beach, No Shelter, Young Hearts, Two to Tango, Tough Love, Rhythm Man, Feel the Night, Desire, You're the Best. Reception. Box office. The film was a commercial success, grossing $100 million in the United States and Canada to become one of the highest-grossing films of 1984 and Hollywood's biggest sleeper hit of the year. Following the release of Cobra Kai, The Karate Kid re-releases in 2018 and 2019 grossed a further $400,529 in the United States and Canada, bringing its domestic total to $100,400,529. In the United Kingdom, the film topped the box office for 2 weeks and grossed £2,960,939. By 1989, the film had grossed $130 million worldwide. Between 2018 and 2020, the film grossed a further $400,529 in the United States and Canada, and $42,257 in the United Kingdom and Australia, bringing its worldwide total to $130,442,786. The film sold an estimated 27,072,000 tickets in the United States and Canada. The film also sold 1.9 million tickets in Spain, 1,888,845 tickets in France and Germany, and 137,217 tickets in the South Korean capital of Seoul, adding up to 30,998,062 tickets sold in the United States, Canada, Spain, France, Germany, and Seoul. Critical response. On the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 89% based on 44 reviews, with an average rating of 6.83/10. The website's critics' consensus reads, "Utterly predictable and wholly of its time, but warm, sincere, and difficult to resist, due in large part to Morita and Macchio's relaxed chemistry." On Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 60 out of 100, based on 15 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. On its release, Roger Ebert called the film one of the year's best, gave it 4 stars out of 4, and described it as an exciting, sweet-tempered, heartwarming story with interesting friendships in the film. Janet Maslin of the New York Times also gave a positive review. The Karate Kid ranked number 40 on Entertainment Weekly's list of the 50 best high school movies. The Karate Kid launched the career of Macchio, who would turn into a teen idol featured on the covers of magazines such as Tiger Beat. It revitalized the acting career of Morita, previously known mostly for his comedic role as Arnold on Happy Days, who was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance as Miyagi. Morita reprised his role in 3 subsequent sequels, while Macchio returned for 2. Upon release of the 2010 remake, Dana Stevens wrote, "The 1984 original may have seemed like a standard-issue inspirational sports picture at the time, but a generation of remove reveals what a well-crafted movie it actually was." Rewatched today, the original Kid, directed by Rocky's John Giavildsen, feels smart and fresh, with a wealth of small character details and a leisurely middle section that explores the boy's developing respect for his teacher. Accolades. Home media. In the United Kingdom, it was watched by 3.7 million viewers on television in 2017, making it the year's 10th most watched film on UK multi-channel television. Merchandise. The film spawned a franchise of related items and memorabilia such as action figures, headbands, posters, t-shirts, and a video game. A novelization was made by B.B. Hiller and published in 1984. The novel had a scene that was in the rehearsal when Daniel encounters Johnny during school at lunch. Also at the end, there was a battle between Miyagi and Kreese in the parking lot after the tournament, which was the original ending for the film and used as the beginning of The Karate Kid Part 2. In 2015, toy company Funko revived the Karate Kid action figures. 2 versions of LaRusso, a version of Lawrence and a version of Miyagi, were part of the line. The toys were spotted at retailers Target and Amazon.com. Cultural influence. The series has been credited for popularizing karate in the United States. The American experimental rock band titled Sweep the Leg Johnny was a reference to a line from the film. The 2007 music video for the song Sweep the Leg by No More Kings stars William Zabka as a caricature of himself and features references to the Karate Kid, including cameo appearances by Zabka's former Karate Kid co-stars. Makio and Zabka made a guest appearance as themselves in the How I Met Your Mother episode, The Bro Mitzvah. In the episode, Makio is invited to Barney Stinson's bachelor party, leading to Barney shouting that he hates Makio and that Johnny was the real hero of the Karate Kid. Towards the end of the episode, a clown in the party wipes off his makeup and reveals himself as Zabka. Sequels and adaptations. The success of the Karate Kid spawned 3 more films, including 2 direct sequels, starting with The Karate Kid Part 2 in 1986. Picking up where the first film left off, the film sees Daniel accompany Miyagi on a trip to Okinawa, where he is reunited with loved ones and is challenged by an old adversary. Although a commercial success, it received mixed reviews. The Karate Kid Part 3 followed in 1989, which saw Kreese seek revenge on Daniel and Miyagi with the help of new allies. It was criticized for rehashing elements of the first 2 films. Another sequel, The Next Karate Kid, was the first in the series not to include Makio, although Morita returned as Miyagi. It follows Hilary Swank as one of his new students. A remake of the original film, also titled The Karate Kid, was released in 2010. Set in Beijing, it starred Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith and received generally favorable reviews. Aside from the film series, an animated series based on the film, also called The Karate Kid, aired on NBC in the fall of 1989. Consisting of 13 episodes, the series abandoned the karate tournament motif and followed Daniel and Miyagi, voiced by Joey Didio and Robert Ito, respectively, in an adventure/quest setting. A sequel live-action television series, Cobra Kai, debuted in 2018. Created by Josh Heald, John Hurwitz, and Hayden Schlossberg, it stars Makio and Zabka, who reprise their roles as LaRusso and Lawrence, respectively. Set 34 years later, Cobra Kai re-examines the Miyagi-verse narrative from Johnny's point of view, his decision to reopen the Cobra Kai dojo, and the rekindling of his old rivalry with Daniel. The series draws upon all of the sequels, as well as the original film. The series also pays tribute to Morita, who died in 2005. After a guest appearance in the show's first season, Cove reprised his role as John Kreese starting in the second season, while Shu reprised her role as Allie Mills in the series' third season, and Thomas Ian Griffith as Terry Silver in the fourth season. In January 2020, a Broadway musical adaptation of The Karate Kid was revealed to be in development. Aman Miyamoto will serve as director, with an accompanying novel being written by the original film's screenwriter Robert Mark Kamen. Drew Gasparini will serve as the lyricist and composer of the score, while Keone and Mari Madrid will choreograph the play. Kumiko Yoshii, Michael Wolk will serve as producers, with the Kinoshita Group. The cast will include Giovanni Sy as Mr. Miyagi, John Cardoza as Daniel LaRusso, Kate Baldwin as Lucille LaRusso, Alan H. Green as John Kreese, Jake Bentley Young as Johnny Lawrence, Jetta Jurians as Allie Mills and Luis Pablo Garcia as Freddy Fernandez. The opening date has yet to be announced. A new Karate Kid film is in development by Sony Pictures, described as the return to the original franchise.